Hello and welcome to another video in our NPTE series. Today we're talking about how to pass the National Physical Therapy Exam, NPTE Study Plan Edition. And that's just it. It all starts with a plan. Today we're going to break down various options for plans, how to approach studying for the NPT, and what not to do, because I most certainly did not know what to do the first time around. I just went as hard as I could for 16 weeks, and I really regret my approach, and I want to make sure that y'all don't make the same mistakes I did. So let's talk a little bit about the various study plan options, and we'll go from there. So in thinking about how to study for the MPTE, there's a couple different common options. We typically see an 8-week plan, a 10-week plan, a 12-week plan, or a 16-week plan. And a lot of people ask, okay, how do I decide what plan's for me? How do I know how long I need to study? Well, think about other commitments you have going on at the time. So, are you in clinical rotations? Do you have that kind of a commitment? Are you working? Have you already graduated and are just studying? There's not really a perfect plan. So, kind of think about like what do you have on deck for the next 2 months, 3 months, and kind of plan in how your studying is going to fit into that routine. A lot of it depends too on when you're planning on taking the exam. So, like I said before, is it in school, after school, and how does that fit into what your post grad plans are? Planning with intention is the most important thing that I want to touch on today. And that's using the content outline to make sure that you're not missing anything, so that you're spending adequate time within all the major systems, musculoskeletal, cardio, neuro. So those are going to be the big three. And then those less important areas like other systems, lymphatic and tegumentary, and making sure that you're spreading out how you're studying accordingly. And if you use the content outline, which is posted online, you'll make sure that if you hit all those topics, you will have covered everything. You will have seen it at least once. There's not going to be any major surprises. And then you'll be in a really good place where you can start to feel more confident about your overall plan. But make sure as you start to plan out, these 10, 12, 16 weeks, or 8 weeks, if you're really going for it in a shorter period of time and have that flexibility, make sure that you're planning in rest breaks and time for fun. So the first time around that I studied for the MPT, I had a very poor experience. I was very freaked out following we had a representative from Score Builders come on my campus. Um, I think it was at the end of, it was right before Christmas break, right before we went on our final clinicals. She was kind of saying that in order to pass the MPT in April, if you're still on clinicals, you got to wake up early, got to stay up late. So my mindset was like, okay, I got to study all the time if I want to take and pass this in April. And I had that was my approach. I woke up at like 5 o'clock in the morning and tried to study for an hour. Then I would go to clinicals for a 10 or 12-hour day. Then I would come home, eat dinner, try and study more, and then do it all over the next day, taking practice tests on the weekends. So it was a situation where by the time I got to the end of my study plan, which was 16 weeks, I was like, I don't have anything left in the tank to even take this exam. I was so burnt out. And I realized that I made a really bad mistake in terms of planning things out. I wasn't thinking about my mental health during this period, and I wasn't making time for, fun and friends and all that stuff that really matters and is really important. Because at the end of the day, it's just an exam. It's a big one, but if you don't pass, just treat it as another practice exam. You'll pass again in a couple more months. That's what happened to me. So the second time around, I made a lot of time for fun, a lot of time for enjoyment. And I wish I would have done that the first time around. So when you're planning in these rest breaks, this fun time, make sure each week you have blocked out things that you want to do, whether that's exercise, whether that's if you enjoy going to sporting events or checking out breweries, whatever brings you joy, there should be time blocked every single week, no matter how busy you are. Make time for something you enjoy, and that's going to go a long way in making sure that your energy levels stay up, your study time is more productive. Because if it gets to the point where you're studying all the time, you're not going to be retaining anything. So kind of let that sink in and really take to heart the importance of balance during this time, because people might try and tell you, hey, you really need to get after it if you want to pass the exam the first time around. But everyone's different. Know how you study. As long as you're hitting on all those major pieces of the content outline, you're in a really good place. Choosing your textbook is something that it holds a pretty high importance, but it's not the end of the world. All the different test prep textbooks will contain the information necessary to pass the exam. So I use the Score Builders textbook. I know a lot of people use the Therapy Ed. So pick one as your primary source. If you want to reference the other, get a used copy of the other. Or I know Therapy Ed has an app. I use some of those questions from the app, which were taken from the practice test within the book. Whatever you decide to do, pick one, stick with it, and then use the other to supplement, or you can share with friends too if you really feel like you want to work from multiple resources. I have heard Therapy Ed questions are a little bit more challenging, and I would agree with that, but that's not to say there isn't value in using both. Next, decide if you want to use a self-paced, if you want to go a self-paced studying or use like a guided course. Now, there's benefits and drawbacks to both, and I don't necessarily think it's required for everyone to enroll in an additional course. These are just other options that can be very beneficial in either boosting your confidence or helping you get to a place where you feel like you're ready to take the exam, and aren't second guessing yourself with information that you're struggling with. If you do decide to go with a self-paced route, one thing I'll recommend is TrueLearn, which is integrated with Picmonic. I've talked about them a lot, but I'm kind of going to read what their description is from their website, and then we'll kind of move forward from there. But TrueLearn can be a great entry point again for anyone who's looking for that self-paced option. It's helped over 40,000 PTs, OTs, med students, and more take and successfully pass their board exams. Specifically for the NPTE, I know there's like 1,400 practice questions, and they've got pretty high quality explanations available at your disposal. Again, with this integration of Picmonic, which is that audiovisual learning system that utilizes characters and stories to help complex topics stick in. So if you're someone that likes mnemonics, likes a bunch of videos with kind of crazy characters and things like that you won't be able to forget, that can be a great option. TrueLearn also utilizes smart analytics and spaced repetition to help you make the most out of your studying. And then it's also a fraction of the cost of some of these other test prep companies. It's usually a little bit over $200 for several months of utilizing the content. And so it's one of the most effective options out there for independent learners. And you can use the code snack break at checkout and you'll actually get a 20% discount. Other options for these group courses that I talked a little bit about, the PT final exam is something that I utilize. They've got a self-paced version as well. And they also have the VIPT cohort, which instructors will walk you through 12 weeks of studying, utilizing a workbook. They make sure that all the content from the content outline is hit, and they're a great resource for anyone taking it the first time or who needs to potentially retake the exam. Other options that I've heard and heard success with is Final Frontier. Score Builders Basecamp is something that was included in our package that my school had, and I didn't get a ton of great use out of the Basecamp. I thought the questions were almost too simple, but it can be a good quick review. And then just some benefits of these group courses: you get coaching. There's more of a community feel. People you can constantly ask questions if you don't necessarily have study buddies around you. The drawbacks are it can get expensive quickly. So this is already an expensive exam to begin with. Adding on additional costs can get to be a lot, especially if you might not necessarily need them. Up next, let's talk a little bit about the intangibles. In making sure that you're in a good spot to pass the NPTE, you got to make sure that you put yourself in the best position possible with like registering for the exam early so that you can take it at a time and location that's going to put you at an advantage. So if you're in a morning person, don't test in the afternoon. I I've said this before, but I had to take the exam at 2:30 in the afternoon in Oklahoma. My clinical rotation was in Kansas, but that was still a little bit of a drive, and I'm a morning person. I'm not an afternoon person. Afternoon's kind of a time for me to wind down a little bit. So don't put yourself in that situation. Get all your prereqs taken care of and submitted early, because it's first come, first serve with who can register for their exams. And then think about if you do have to, for whatever reason, test at a site that's multiple hours away, maybe consider trying to stay overnight, or see if there's like friends or family in that area that you can stay with to just reduce the overall stress of the experience. Because if you're driving for multiple hours, it's hard to stay focused or get excited when you get out of the car to go ahead and sit for several more hours when you take the exam. Next, try and remove all variables of uncertainty. So walk through the testing site if you can. Call ahead, make sure they have lockers, see if they have any other like test center specific requirements, and just get any of your specific questions or concerns addressed. You'll feel a lot better walking into the exam. I've got a whole video on confidence when you take the NPT and how to eliminate self-limiting beliefs. You can check that out too if you're interested. But taking practice tests at the same time as the exam will be another great tip in terms of making sure that the confidence level is as high as it can be entering the exam. And lastly, just confidence. Realize you've been in school for around 7 years. In many cases, you have all the tools you need to succeed. You've been studying hard for a long time. You've been around the content for, as long as you could probably remember. This has been something you've wanted to do. So now it's just about putting all the pieces together and realizing that you're going to be successful. So go through the steps, have a really solid plan in place, use additional resources if you feel like you need an extra boost. But now's the time to realize everything that you've been excited for and everything you've been hoping for the last 3 years of PT school, and many of you even longer before. So go out there, crush it. Don't second guess yourself. And again, make sure you're making time for fun. Make sure you're enjoying the process. This doesn't have to be something that's miserable. Good luck, everyone.